Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another Hideaway Backlot with Lou and you. Sorry about that, Lou. What were we going to say?
No, I was just going to say, hey there, hi there, ho there. You're as welcome as can be. I
Absolutely,
don't know where I heard
100%.
that, but anyway.
That's almost like what is that from? I don't know. Maybe the chat can tell us. But my name is VashSky. This is Lou Wasserman's Ghost here, talking all about Hollywood history. And we are going to be setting our sights on a very interesting location when it comes to Hollywood. And we are talking about, well, the Hollywood Hideaway of Palm Springs. And from what I understand, Lou, your old stomping grounds at certain points in your life. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's kind of funny, We take for granted that everything we call things now has always been called that. But long before anybody ever came up with, as far as I know, the term condominium, we had own your own apartments. And my grandfather bought one in Palm Springs because he had some real estate business out there. And so a lot of family weekends were spent out there when I was a kid. So, and in those days, even with air conditioning, the whole town shut down this time of year, or was just starting to come back because it's too damn hot in the summertime, Bob. And now Bob's building homes there, so go figure. But I spent a lot of time there in my youth, my wild and crazy youth.
Boy, and it is very interesting out here, I must say. That's actually where I'm streaming from, is technically Palm Desert, but the greater Palm Springs area right
and
here.
And that's it. Out there, the towns are Palm Desert, Palm Springs, Cathedral City, which I've never gotten an explanation for. I go, let's see. Yeah. I'm trying to think of the others. La Quinta, which was a big hangout for Frank Capra and other famous folks. Let's see. Joshua Tree, of course.
Thousand Palms over here.
Yes, Thousand Palms. Who counted? That's what I want to know. And of course, it's the home of the Agua Dulce Indians. And most people, it's funny, we've had famous California droughts in the past. And I remember one time the drought was so severe, they wouldn't let people water their lawns. And in Santa Barbara, there was a guy going around spraying green food coloring on your dead brown lawn to make it look good. But in Palm Springs, the golf courses and the hotels and everybody was spraying water like crazy. And lots of people who didn't know thought that was scandalous. It turns out, of course, there's plenty of water in the desert. You just have to dig down a little bit and get it, which is, what they call artesian wells. So there's oodles and oodles of water out there.
There is, and apparently there will be more here upcoming. That's actually a point of contention with the locals when it comes to Cotino, but we'll get to all of that in just a moment. You were telling me before the show, Lou, that originally it wasn't Palm Springs that was the hot spot in the kind of LA Hollywood area.
If you look at a map out there in Radio Land, you'll find that this is part of Riverside County, which basically stretches from the edge of Orange County, where Disneyland is, all the way to the Arizona border at Blythe. It's like a long strip of land, and named after what is the capital of it, Riverside. And Riverside, back in the turn of the century and beyond, was a huge, 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 well-known resort town, mainly because if you think of the turn of the century in the 1920s and 30s and millionaires and billionaires or whatever, you think of what? New York, Chicago, Boston, Long Island, Florida maybe. But no, Riverside, California at that time was famous for, during certain months of the year, having more millionaires in residence, and technically having some of them all year because they built second homes. Because this is where they'd come in the dead of winter back east to enjoy Southern California weather, but not be in the hustle bustle of LA. Well, with the advent of air conditioning, that all moved further east to Palm Springs because Palm Springs also had all that water, some of which was hot springs that were considered therapeutic. But the place in Riverside, which I told you to get some pictures of, that was the famous place there, is a thing called the Mission Inn. And the Mission Inn is one of the most amazing pieces of architecture. It is a Italian, Spanish, Rococo mission style building, and you can see some of it here. And I highly commend any of you who are ever in that neighborhood to go take a look at it. Staying there is even better. Eating there is definitely great. I've been all through the backstage of it because a guy I used to know was the executive chef. In fact, see those rooms on the left with the little turrets above them? I had one of those one time. That was kind of nice. It's all built around this central courtyard, and they do a kick-ass Sunday brunch, as you would expect. And the rooms are like, on the low end, $600-700 a night. On the high end, 14, 15 and beyond. So, cheap it ain't. But
this property is beautiful, by the way.
Oh, and they were of course, this is the modern incarnation of it, but they were catering to these millionaires and captains of industry and such who would come out there to what was then considered, well, gee, that's like a desert, and stay in this palace. That almost reminds me of the Hogwarts thing at Universal,
absolutely
the stairway hallway.
Yeah.
But anyway, so from there they went to Palm Springs, but there's the Mission Inn, that whole block,
right?
And you should go take a look and just noodle around. And other than obviously private rooms, they don't care. In that lobby, there's a giant, huge wooden chair, that was built specifically because President Taft was visiting, and he was a big man, so they built him his own chair. And it's been used as a movie location a lot too. But
yeah.
Some of this chapel is part of the hotel. It's not. I mean, they do a lot of weddings and things, but it's not technically speaking a consecrated.
Putting the mission in Spanish Mission, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
That's gracious.
The mission, should you choose to pay to accept it, is.
But it's a beautiful location. I did not know.
Spectacular. Anyway, but everything moved with the advent of good air conditioning to Palm Springs. And even then, in the dead of summer, Palm Springs closed up. The famous department stores that had branches there from their home bases in Beverly Hills or other places, Saks Fifth Avenue, New York, Magnons, they all just shut down because there wasn't enough. Even the people with second homes there, like we had, didn't go out there in the summertime when it was really, really hot. I remember one trip we took out there, and my mother got so overheated, and we went into an A&W root beer, and she probably drank about 5 gallons of cold root beer to turn the heat off. And anyway, but it became a celebrity hangout, and lots, therefore, of radio shows, TV shows, and movies were made either actually there or said they were taking place there. And we've got a list of all those somewhere, I know.
Yes, we do. And there is a lot of...
So there you see, starting in the 30s. But that explains to you how this small town in the desert got to be so famous because, hey, if that's where all these people used to hang out, maybe I want to go there.
Right.
And see how suddenly in the 60s the list grows. And now as we go down, it gets, and this is just movies that we're going to show you TV in a minute, and radio.
Goodness gracious. I mean, there's so many. It just grows and grows and grows. And I really didn't see it as a big filming location, but I guess it would be. I know Walt Disney himself actually liked the Palm Springs area quite a bit. And if you see...
People who like to drink like to dry out in the desert.
Yeah, well...
No,
I
they
guess
do. I
that's
mean,
fair
it's
point.
famous. I'm sure most of our avid fans know the story of the petrified log at Disneyland that sits there alongside the rivers of America for as long as they still exist. Walt and a couple of his drinking buddies were on one of their desert sojourns, actually in Arizona. And they got to the Petrified Forest, which is a famous place to go look at. And lots of
Right.
places there sold petrified wood in tiny little, put it on your desktop as a curio pieces, all the way up to, it turns out, this big, huge tree trunk, tree roots. And Walt bought it and sent it home and forgot all about it. And a month or two later, two guys in a truck and a tree show up, and Ms. Lillian opens the door and, "Hi, this is for you." And when he gets home from the studio that day, she looks at him and says, "Got something in the mail today. What you want to tell me what this is all about?" And then he suddenly remembered and he smiled. He said, "Well, I got it as a gift for you, darling." And she smiled and said, "We're giving it to Disneyland." And so it wound up with a historical marker explaining about petrified wood. And it's been there ever since. And it says presented to Disneyland by Mrs. Lillian Disney. So
I love that. I love that
yeah,
so
other
much.
loving husbands get, rings and bracelets and
He took
cars
a
for their love.
he took a fond liking to Palm Springs, set up his Smoke Tree Ranch, and that's
Right.
kind of like the symbol that you see on his tie in later years.
Yeah.
It's the letters of Smoke
I
Tree
think
Ranch
on the plane
combined.
too, wasn't it? Wasn't it on the tail of the plane somewhere?
It
Anyway.
might have been. It might have been, but took a big liking to it, and so that's one of the reasons why Disney might be setting up of many others. But we'll get to that in just a moment. But a lot of stars called Palm Springs their hideaway and home. It's interesting because a lot of the streets, if you notice, at least even by Cotino, which again we'll talk about, you'll see Frank Sinatra Drive, Bob
Yep.
Hope Drive, Gerald Ford Drive, all this kind of stuff, and that's a really interesting thing too, because you're driving around in what is basically like the middle of the desert essentially, which looks beautiful, but it's kind of random when you're driving through the 10, let's say on your way to Disneyland. Like I my association with it up until relatively recently, and you just see all these star names as streets and so forth.
Yep.
You're just going like, what is going on here? And then you learn the history. It's like, oh, okay, I got you now.
Well, and of course, of all of them, Frank and Bob Hope were the two most famous as far as having a kind of compound out there. And
Right.
Frank even built his to have a helicopter pad so that JFK could come in and visit it. And they had their public relations problems, and it never got used by him, and he got mad and had it torn out. But
there's a little bit of a history there, huh, with the Kennedy and the
oh yeah, well, I mean,
and all that.
the people in his political establishment didn't think being associated with a guy that half the people thought was a great singer, but buddies with mobsters, was a good thing for a presidential candidate. So
Sure. But you were saying actually before the show that a certain celebrity made it very, very famous, and that goes by Jack Benny.
Jack Benny, born Benny Kabelski, famous violin player. Jack, there he is. Did lots of his very popular radio and TV shows. Had them take place in Springs. You look at him, you don't think of Babes by a Pool, but he was out there a lot.
And it's kind of funny because
there a lot.
As we were going over some research for today's show, we wound up along this picture right here, which has a very interesting history. We're talking about filming locations. And, sets and so forth.
And 6 degrees from Disney.
Sure.
because of Bambi and Thumper. Now, some of you who are eagle-eyed will remember what that house is, and it's from the movie um, with James Bond in the desert. Willard White, Jimmy Dean playing the millionaire pseudo Howard Hughesy Willard White, is being held captive in his own desert house by these two lovely ladies. And of course, everybody takes a dip when they're in Palm Springs. What's funny about that shot, if that was in the film from that angle, you see the reflector around the corner? Right at the edge of that pipe, there's a thing with a flat panel on a stand, and what those are reflectors. And what that is, on one side of that panel is both sides. It's kind of silver foil. On one side, it'll be flat and plain. The other side, it'll have little sort of jaggedy ridges in the crisscross pattern that soften it. And that's how you get light into a corner where you don't want to put a real electric light, is you literally reflect the sun into those recesses. And now that got in the shot, somebody will have to account for it.
Wow, that is that's great. That's a great catch right there.
Yeah.
This probably is what, like a maybe blink and you miss it kind of shot. So perhaps in the beginning it was like, okay, nobody's gonna catch it. But now we have,
But what's funny is in the position it's in, it's not working. So why it was over there, it's almost like they put it aside saying, oh, that won't be in the shot. And oops, yes, it is.
Whoops. Can't go back to film that again now. It's in there. No. That's great though. Great catch, Lou. Fantastic catch. But there's some interesting little trivia right there. And I think we actually found somebody mapped out the shots. And
somebody is apparently putting together a collection of villains from the movies, and the things they rate them on that card we thought were pretty funny. Bring that up again on how big a threat to the world they were in the grand scheme of things. Josh is mentioning looking like Tony Stark's house, but this was a real house. It was not built for the movie, and they just found that location and used it. And it's right there in Palm Springs, even though it's supposed to be outside of Vegas, which technically Palm Springs is. For that matter, in that movie, if you remember the scene where he goes to the Willard White space installation, where he drives that funny little moon buggy and everything, that's all actually at in Death Valley. That's the 20 Mule Team boron factory that they used for that.
Oh,
anyway.
But one of the reasons why those architectural styles are so evocative and you can find them in a plethora of media, including Tony Stark and Marvel and Iron Man, is because you have this 1960s mid-century modern style that was made very prolific out in Palm Springs, but now you see it just about everywhere.
Yeah.
But it all kind of has its origins.
Well, have you got a picture of Bob Hope's house out there? It's kind of that way too.
Oh, yeah. Let me go ahead and get a picture of that here. Give me just one. Knock my phone over.
Now, there were houses like these hanging to the hills of Hollywood, but of course covered in greenery rather than the stark rock of the desert, so they don't stand out quite as much. But those stilt homes that you see clinging to Coldwater Canyon and Laurel Canyon. So, yeah, that's Bob Hope's place.
Right.
So,
very
James Bond, Ken Adam set evocative. Look at the interior shots there with the hole. It will remind you of the one with the rocket in Japan and other stuff like that.
It's such a wild design, especially when you're seeing it from afar.
Well, and if you think about it on a practical level, a round house may look keen, but try furnishing it when all of our furniture is square. You have to have a lot of custom wedges made to make a couch go around a corner,
Right. Yeah, exactly. Which you can actually see in this picture right here. Very, very interesting. Speaking of homes and so, you can actually see it being built. Oh, that's cool. That's a great image right there. How very, very interesting. But speaking of homes and celebrities and Well, I guess we got to talk about this a little bit here. Just a quick digression with Cotino. So Cotino,
Ah,
let's
yes.
see,
Now,
see it.
show of hands, Chad, how many people know what Cotino is before we go into it?
Yeah, exactly. Um, I actually be curious to know how many people even care about Cotino, much less actually know what it is. Cotino is a community being developed by Disney in partnership with another real estate firm. And they are creating custom houses out in the middle of Palm Springs, or the greater Palm Springs area, technically Palm Desert and Mirage, but the greater Palm Springs area. And these houses, I believe it's 1,932 houses exactly, will be anywhere between $1 million to $2 million for houses that are anywhere between, I think, 2,200 square feet to 3,900 square feet. So very, very expensive, especially for the medium house in this area. I believe the medium house is about $834,000. So these are deluxe right here, and you can kind of see where this is actually going to be placed. I'm actually staying in this general area, so I literally am right next to it, which is fascinating. You can see when this image was taken, they were just starting to develop it. You can kind of see what it's going to look like at the end of it, and it's pretty spot on to how they developed it. Which we don't often see with concept art
It's
from
it's
Disney.
a it's a virtual laughing place.
Yes, and the laughing place does come into this as well. Initially, they were going to have. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. You can concept art of this, of all the stuff they're expecting to have. You can see that they were going to have Laughing Place Ranch originally in
A dog
this
park.
storytelling living. Yeah, exactly. And that's no longer the case. I don't think we've gotten a name for it just yet, but it was going to be the Laughing Place because
I
it
think the
was
new
Walt's
name is
Laughing
going to
Place. You see.
be It's Not a Racist Dog Park. Honest, it isn't. Um,
That's fantastic. But yeah, and they're gonna have like long table park and stuff like that, and because apparently Walt was
of
fond of
course,
long tables,
what
I
they were
guess.
what they were planning
Hmm.
was to say, hey, if you were going to buy something anyway,
Hmm.
either as a retirement place or as a second home or whatever, why don't you buy with the assurance and quality that is Disney Imagineering? Of course, the fact that it's opening right after Tiana, um,
or
that bloom is off that rose just a little bit.
Communicore Hall, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
they they just actually put in their first festival in Communicore Hall, and it actually looks worse than it used to, which is bizarre. But yeah, you're only as good as your last project, and like you said, the bloom is off that rose just a little bit right there. And apparently, people in the surrounding area are not happy. And one of the things that is a major contention for a lot of people is that lake that you see right there. Apparently, it's going to be 24 acres, the size of 18 football fields. This thing is absolutely massive. And we have a big write up by the Los Angeles Times about this. Disney's new mega neighborhood is taking shape in the California desert. Some locals are dubious. So it's kind of interesting. Mickey Mouse is making his way to the Coachella Valley, whether locals want him there or not. This is by Jack Fleming, staff writer at the LA Times. In Rancho Mirage, the Walt Disney Company is making progress on an ambitious development that promises to sprinkle some Disney magic into real estate. Dubbed Cotino, the master plan community is the first of the entertainment giant's story living projects, designed for home buyers who want to bring Disney deeper into their everyday lives. You can see some of the facts and statistics right here, but what are people saying about this? Rancho Mirage is quiet, it's peaceful, it's friendly. Mark Wolpa, who moved here from San Francisco in 2008, said of the area, but Cotino is bringing pollution, commotion, and chaos to an area that didn't want it. To me, I don't know, Lou. This is kind of sour grapes from people who are kind of
Sure
in
it
the
is.
area and have no control.
Sure it is because And it's funny because if it's a success, it's going to raise the property values of their homes too,
Sure.
just for being next door. And they're
True.
complaining about a lake. One of the things we were discussing about Palm Springs was that whole thing of the water, and how during droughts, people in other parts of Southern California who were told they couldn't water their lawns were painting green food coloring on them so they didn't look so terrible, and resentful of the golf courses and lakes and things out in the desert. But those all come from natural artesian wells. So
Right.
I,
And you can
I,
see in the surrounding area, there are a lot of golf courses around here. That green should not exist in this area, folks. Okay.
well,
That's all man-made right there. But it goes on. Walpa said his main concern is the water usage, as you brilliantly pointed out, Lou, required to fill and maintain a lagoon in the middle of the desert. Like we said before, there are wells there that provide water. The artificial oasis is called Cotuno Bay, and Disney is touting it as a centerpiece of the project. Once finished, it'll feature sandy beaches, swimming, water sports, and a promenade. For the project, Disney tapped Crystal Lagoons, a company that specializes in creating massive bodies of water. The company keeps the specifics of its technology under wraps. The website claims its lagoons consume 33 times less water than an 18-hole golf course and replace much of the water lost to evaporation by capturing rainwater. The Rancho Mirage area receives an average of about 6 inches of rain in a year. Now, I know they were talking about how when they announced this and when they announced the lagoon portion of it, they were under a very severe drought. Obviously, that's changed now because they've had some pretty good rains that have occurred in this area. But people are like, well, we were taking out our lawns, we were replacing it with artificial grass, we were on this very severe, strict limitation when it came to water usage, and now you're going to put this lagoon in there. Bad timing, I suppose.
well, and you have to remember when we talk about architecture in the desert. Did you get that one I just sent you? In the original City Hall of Rancho Mirage. See if anybody recognizes the architecture.
Oh, that's interesting. There we go.
I remember used to drive past that all the time. It's a failed Pizza Hut. And the city took it over and made it into the City Hall. Now they've got a whole campus of fancy modern buildings that sits in the middle of. But it used to be that was all there was to the bureaucracy of Rancho Mirage.
Yeah.
Which is a funny name for a town, too, come to think of it.
That is a funny name for
It's not a real rancho. It's just a mirage. Anyway.
It is a mirage. Rancho Mirage then Mayor Ted Wheel defended the lagoon, writing that the property owners have a right to develop their land in accordance within city standards, and pointing out that Disney's plans fall within its allotted.
Yeah, this is just, I the nimbiness of our world is a little something.
Right.
If I were thinking of buying a house there, I'd be more worried about the taxes than the water.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and there's going to be some taxes here. You can kind of see in some of their promotional videos here what kind of.
Well, I wonder. I mean, I don't care enough to get into the dive deep, but I wonder if this development has what is known as a mellow ruse clause in the contract. And for those who don't know, Mello and Roos were two state assemblymen or senators, and they had very close ties to the real estate development industry. And so when you're going to develop a new chunk of empty land, obviously you have to put in water and power and sewer and all that basic infrastructure stuff, which is then going to be handed off to the local utility to run, whether they wanted to have all that extra demand or not. So it used to be that the developer had to pay for all that. There would literally be a so much per acre fee that was supposed to cover all of not the actual building, which they still did, but the connection to the system and the cost of maintaining it and all that. Well, Mello-Roos basically was a way around that by saying, let's figure out what it's going to cost per house and add it to the cost of the house, but it isn't in the sales price. It's a separate contract. Right. Why is that important? Because, hey, this beautiful new house is only $450,000, and The Melrose is only another 75 grand. Surprise! But when you run the ads in the newspaper for people to come out and look, you don't have to mention that, except maybe with an asterisk. So there's all these funny games that get played in real estate in California. What's remarkable to me looking at this is how small the individual places are, which tells you this is a Disney adults kind of, not necessarily retirement, but not people with 3 and 4 bedroom demands.
No, no. They
Anyway.
want. There's this whole section that's going to be 55 plus or older in this area right here, which is the artisan club that they have and some of the community resources they're going to provide. And I actually was able to go to this site right here to take some pictures right here, do a little scoping out of the place. And apparently they're saying that the first round of houses are going to be available starting in March 2025. Ambitious. I'll say, because the area it doesn't seem that developed to me.
Well, that doesn't mean all the amenities and the community centers and all that are going to be done. It just means literally the house. Because then when they open the new amenities, they can raise the prices. But you could have gone on a tour. They would have given you a free glass of soda and a sales pitch.
Yeah, I literally took these photos a couple hours before the show, and it was before that they opened. I am planning on doing it tomorrow, actually, before we leave. Finding out what I can of Cotino, this story living project here. And
where does the name come from, anyway?
I don't know. I think it's
because I looked up the word and I found several different variations. I would ask them what their excuse for the name is when they're on the tour.
Yeah, I don't know.
I got to tell you, that's not a particularly attractive building if that's the drive-up guard gate opening of the place. Anyway.
That is the drive-up guard gate.
I mean, it doesn't inspire you to say, ooh, there's something neat behind this gate. I think what it says is, we have a toxic chemical factory here. You can't come in, Mr. Bond, unless you bring those 2 girls with you.
I don't necessarily disagree. They got the signage out there. Was able to see a couple of the houses.
Of course, at least they didn't name it Otisville.
So, I mean, this is what they are planning on delivering right here, and I guess this is one of 2 now. So they've announced actually Asteria that will be setting up, I believe, in North Carolina there, and will be a similar community in cooperation with Imagineering, which if I'm looking at this, I mean, from the best of my knowledge.
Well, I think both of these have been on the books now for quite a while.
Right.
And I'll be interested to see if there is a third.
Yeah, I would be interested too, because I think this was a way, honestly, for Bob Chapek at the time, who ran the Parks division, maybe looking to, I don't know, deliver Imagineering's design prowess to others, right? And
which they did in other ways too, They had a whole division going. I don't know, maybe it still is, to do museums and exhibits.
Yeah.
The Gene Autry Western Heritage Museum in Griffith Park, LA, was done by the people who started out doing the exhibits at Epcot. The artifacts in the Japanese pavilion and other places there. So,
yeah, anyway. I know they've done some subcontracting,
which makes sense. It's a natural expansion progression, but
sure. But they're saying like, oh well, they had, this is kind of the plan for Epcot or whatever. And it's like, well, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but but it's a nice story, It's a way of looking at it, I suppose. But you can kind of see right here what this is all supposed to well, not only look like, but what's in development right now. You can see the beautiful mountains back there, and I think that's the defining feature of this, because it sits so close to those mountains on kind of the west side of Palm Springs. you can see that the views are going to be outrageous.
And remember,
How this?
folks, one of the big pitches of Los Angeles and Southern California is that in 2 hours you can be in the desert or in the mountains skiing or at the beach surfing, uh, because indeed that's the geography. Um, and the big land boom of Southern California was after World War II, really, because all these guys that had passed through there on the way to the Pacific from places where it snowed and was nasty said, why should I go back? Exactly. So that's where they wound up. Big population shift. So,
Huge.
and of course, it helped that in the 30s they got water, and that's Chinatown, Jake. So, which shameless plug is the show we're going to do tomorrow night, and then it'll be on next week, I guess, for the genre guys, the movie Chinatown.
Mm.
Which, interestingly, originally when Robert Towne wrote that, I discovered he had 3 movies: Chinatown, the one called The Two Jakes that was done later and didn't do too well, which was Chinatown was about water and loosely based around the story of Mulholland and the aqueduct. The Two Jakes was about oil, which was a major Southern California boom. And the last one is about the other of the 3 biggest natural resource powers of Southern California. And what is it? Real estate. So, but that never even got written as far as anybody knows. Because
well, I think you've used this joke before, Lou, and I think it's so correct. The only reason to really utilize a time machine is to go back and buy Southern California real estate, right? That is so true.
I think I've mentioned before at the Malibu Bay Museum, they have on display real estate ads from the 1920s and 30s for beachfront Malibu lots for $400. So granted, building a time machine is expensive, but it pays dividends, as they say.
Oh yeah, you'll make that back in no time. $400. Those are probably what we're probably talking about $2-3 million homes now.
Well, now, my God, the way people do things, they buy the $2-3-4 million house to tear it down and build another one. So
goodness gracious, it is wild, but we're definitely going to have to follow.
Well, the house I grew up in beautiful Beverly Hills, in what was known as the poor part of Beverly Hills, which at that time was the houses under $100,000, that my folks bought for $82,500 by the skin of their teeth, and sold when we were all gone for $1.9 million. That is what's known in the biz as appreciation.
Yes, yeah, appreciation indeed.
But anyway,
into the government crazy. But we're definitely gonna have to keep an eye on this. I know we're gonna have more coverage on Catino and everything.
Well, what'll be interesting is when you go back in a year or two, we will do the classic "Does Disney concept art look like the actual thing?" test.
Yeah. And if it does match up, that's interesting. Priorities, I suppose.
Wait, if it matches up and the plumbing works.
A good point. That's a good point. You gotta. That's a good distinction.
Disney, the new tradition of excellence.
It's so bad, Lou. I know a lot of people are looking at that Communicore Hall. They're looking at the new projects that are coming out from Disney, and they're just, what if this is our reference point for new projects going forward? How can we be excited about anything you build or announce?
Anyway, Palm Springs. Anybody out there have any questions about Palm Springs or knowledge that we could share with the world here?
Please. I saw some people in the chat right there who had a few things. Like a Kit Kat, for example. My friend and I used to go to Palm Springs with our parents in the summer. We would start laying out by the pool to get a tan at 7 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, well, definitely want to go early. That's for sure.
You should be, I don't know how old you are now, but you should pay close attention to any moles or freckles or something that start to get a little bigger. Because, no, I was just talking with a doctor the other day about, and he said most skin cancers that come up when you're old
Uh-huh.
were inspired by days as a teenager laying in too much sun. So,
Aw, that's
yeah,
that's not good.
what the hell?
But,
You pay the price for everything.
I heard recently, Lou, apparently this Marilyn Monroe statue right here is going away.
Oh, I don't know.
Apparently the sensibilities of the city have changed since then.
Oh, you mean if it was a statue of a guy impersonating her, they'd still like it?
Yes, yes.
But the actual her, not so much.
Not her.
I went looking to see when I saw you were going there, and I saw this one of these, the 20 best things to do in Palm Springs type of articles. And one of them was a desert trans brunch with like 5 very fat guys in very bad trans gear. And it said it started at $113. I don't know if I want that brunch, but that's just me.
That's something. Yeah, jam it around.
Because Palm
for
Springs sort of got known for big hedonistic parties and
really
festivities. And for a while there, things like spring break. I mean, they called out the National Guard as supplementary cops. It got so wild. So now I guess they've moved on to Washington.
Yeah, I mean it's
or at least Sacramento.
It's something.
The dinosaur.
Yes. Dinosaur, which yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily
I know where that is. That's on the road towards LA.
Right.
And I think, what did they do? Pee-wee's Adventure there? Some movie was done there, a couple of movies.
They sure did. Yeah, Pee-wee Herman was
yeah, that's next to Hadley's in Cabazon, where they have a casino. And Hadley's is this desert oriented, but it's on the main freeway. It's one of these places that has 87 different kinds of nuts and dried fruits and natural oils and dates. That used to be actually out there. Now you see the memories coming back. In Palm Desert, used to go by, and there was a big billboard for a movie that played every 20 minutes or whatever it was, and a gift shop. From the Shields date farms. Dates were a big deal out there because it's a desert thing, And the name of the movie was The Sex Life of the Date. It was a perfectly clean movie. It was about pollination and that sort of thing, but they got a lot of people to stop. It was a big deal for a date milkshake. So,
well, now I know.
Well, and everything back in the days before, frankly, the word Arab got a bad name thanks to bad people. Everything out there was themed around desert and dates, or Arab. The county fair out there in Indio, which is the next town down the road,
right,
was all they had this whole pageant every night called the Tales of Scheherazade or something like that. And they had a permanent set. There was this building that was there all year long, but got used for that with minarets and domes and telling the story of Scheherazade. And they used to have camel races in the daytime, I remember. So that was fun.
Wow.
So it's part of where the land of fruits and nuts came from about California. It's out there. A lot of date farms, a lot of almond farms.
Date farms for sure. I was about to say
I've never been a big date person, but why did they paint it? Oh, I guess for Christmas?
For Paul Rubens. when
Yeah.
Paul Rubens passed away, because Pee-wee's Big Adventure was actually filmed partially within.
Well, we've got a guy where
dinosaur.
we loved his work. He was a wonderful guy, and we're going to do a tribute. What are you going to do? We're going to repaint a dinosaur in his honor.
That's the ultimate tribute, Lou. Come on now.
It is. It is.
But very very interesting. It's I actually don't know the history of why these dinosaurs are even here. Maybe Abin Wu has something like that on his channel or something. But it's a landmark that we always see when we're passing from Arizona to Orange County to go to Anaheim. And so I know that Indio and Palm Springs about 2 hours away from Orange County, containing.
Yeah, if you go the southern way and come up from below through Pendleton, you can do it the other way too. But
right. Yep.
Anyway,
I've done it that way as well. Very, very interesting. But I had no idea that Riverside was that big, Lou. I mean, I was really kind of shocked by that. I always thought size of, I don't know, small or mid-sized county of California. I had no idea it was that large.
Yeah, it's and then above it, of course,
San Bernardino. Very
San Bernardino is I'm not sure, but I think it's the biggest county in America, San Bernardino. And it's basically because it's like, well, what do we do with all the rest of this empty stuff? Well, hell, we don't want to have to pay for 2 or 3 county governments. Just lump it all together.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of how Maricopa became the largest county in Arizona.
Yeah.
Didn't know what to do with it. But very, very interesting. The Mum. I've been to California.
So is anybody out there now inspired by Kit Kat and others who love date shakes to try one?
Ooh. Arlie's date shakes. Their Medjool dates are fabulous as well. At least. Yep, absolutely. I heard date shakes are very good. Very, very good. But
they're very sweet. I'll tell you that. The ones that I've had are, I think they use brown sugar and agave and all kinds of different sweeteners in those things, because dates are pretty sweet by themselves. But the milk part of the shake kind of blends it, so you have to overcompensate the other way. But yes, there is. I know TWCC 406 is talking about the links between Chinatown and the conversation. And that is, well, when you see our Chinatown show, you'll learn. Let's not give it all away, TWCC 406. But it has to do with the choice of shots and POV and stuff. No, I rewatched Chinatown actually last night to get ready to do the show. Right. And I had forgotten, frankly, about the cinematography and the color palette chosen, and how right on it is to that period, or to what we think of as that period, let's say. My general experience of shows that are supposed to be 1920s, 30s, 40s is the real world was much brighter. Like when you see these pictures of African and Asian and even Roman and Greek temples, and then they show you what it really looked like in the day. In fact, it's funny, that's the photo, the one with him with the nose and her in the car, that I used for the thumbnail that I made up. Wait a minute, let me see if I can. When I do the thumbnails for the genre guys, and these are the ones that are on Pro's channel for members, when they replay here, Vash does much cleverer things than I am able to do. But I try and not mention the name of the movie, but give kind of a thematic hint for people. And so let's see if I can find it. I know where it is. It's just, someday I got to get rid of this junk on my computer. How many people out there have said that in the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, there's
the curse of large hard drives. So let's see. Don't think I moved it yet. Yeah, here we go. See what you think of my choice of phrases. I'm going to put this over in Slack for you.
Yeah,
if I
please.
Get it. Okay. There we go. And back over here. And back over here. And paste. Come on. Come on. There you go. Here's what I used.
Minus trouble. That's fantastic. That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, I love the evocative text that you have. And I've tried to include that actually in the thumbnails that we do.
How about, let's see. Here's some upcoming ones just to give people a sense of what we've got on our list in no particular order, because I always forget what we're doing next until they tell me. But I thought this was kind of fun. Let's see. Come on.
Yeah, but the genre guys, once a week at least on the WWE Pro channel for members, and after 90 days makes its way over here on T3PO on the channel you're watching right now. So if you haven't yet, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you never miss out on the genre guys
on anything
as they make their way here.
You don't want to miss a thing, do you?
Oh,
yeah.
Got content every single day. We've got the Hollywood Backlot with Lou and you, the show you're watching right now. We have clips and highlights from WWE Pro, from That Park Place. Even T3PO has a live show as well. Oh, and we just lost Lou. I don't know where Lou went. I promise I wasn't ending the end of the show, folks. He was just trying to show me something. I don't know where he left. But which genre, guys, is next on T3PO? If Lou was here, he would be so excited to tell you all about it. And I'm sure he'll be excited when he actually returns. But the next one on our list is not Action Jackson, like you know, the famous Carl Weathers show or film that came out in the 80s. No. There is a Bollywood Action Jackson that the genre guy has covered, and that is going to be the next drop here on T3PO. Well, I don't want to say anything, Josh. I'll leave it to you. But it's okay. There's no problem at all. Yes, Juliet, the Bollywood one, and I am currently producing that right now. I wish I had the thumbnail to show you, but it is quite an amazing feast right here. Oh, looks like we did get the one that he wanted to show us here. Let's see if we can honor Lou. Let's see here. One Ringo to rule them all. Oh, very, very interesting. I guess it's coming up on the next upcoming genre guys on the WWE Pro Network right there. Again, available if you are a member. Become a member right now. You'll have a lot of fun there. Lou, so good to have you back on. Oh, you're not ready. Hang on. We saw Progress City for a second here, and Lou's making his way on back. But the upcoming schedule of Genre Guys episodes coming up here, I actually have on the T3PO schedule here. We just covered Dr. No. We are going to cover the Bollywood Action Jackson. We're going to cover 1977 Sorcerer, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, 2001 A Space Odyssey, Around the World in 80 Days, Ocean's 11, that classic one, Roller Coaster, Buckaroo Banzai, Bridge of Spies, Demolition Man, all of that and more. And there's a ton of them on the way as well. Will be here available on T3PO. So definitely hit that subscribe button if you haven't hit the subscribe button, and we can get that going for you. Lou has not made his way back, so we're just waiting on him currently. Lou, let me know in the private chat if you are available. We'll get you back on to the show here. Do apologize that, guys. By the way, if you have any questions for Lou, definitely put them in the chat right now because we're going to be wrapping up here momentarily. We'll give it an extra few here. And like I said, I'm in Palm Springs. I'm on the road. So it's been very interesting working on the road and doing everything that we need to do for the channels. Internet has, it cooperates and it doesn't cooperate. It's very strange. Lou, I think are you just about set right here? Yes. There we go.
And that picture from Another Genre Guys that's upcoming is now in your Slack side. I don't know why it took so long for it to go in, but it screwed everything else up. But a wonderful film. There you go. One Ringo to rule them all.
Beautiful. Love it.
How many people out there know that movie? This will show if we're in the cool kids class.
I'm not in the cool kids class, by the way. I'm not.
Oh, The Magic Christian? Really?
Oh, well, I tried to see
Peter Sellers, Ringo, and Raquel Welch as the priestess of the whip.
Man. Raquel Welch. Goodness gravy. Well, definitely the priestess of something. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. There you go. See? Of course, Karen Owen knows.
Of course. Well, there you go. We have some amazing viewers of the channel. We have amazing viewers of the Genre Guys, and they absolutely know.
I noticed last time we promoted again the Bollywood Action Jackson, and I'm seeing in the chat that the mom watched it even without the subtitles. And I'm curious what else you thought about it. Did it matter that you didn't know what was going on?
It is such a crazy film. It's such a crazy movie. It is absolutely wild. I am currently in production of that show, Lou, and I haven't yet gotten to adding the screenshots and actually watching it for myself. Not just yet, but it's a wild film. It's a wild film. My little experience that I have with it.
Yeah.
So far. Let me see if I can pull up a little bit of what we're talking about right here. It's absolutely wild. This thing here. 2014 film. I don't know what the budget was on this, but it doesn't matter. It's amazing anyway. Lap Club right here. Vash and Lou, I made it 50 minutes late, but actually get to see the last half live. I'm an OG Star Wars nerd. What are your favorite Star Warses? Mine is The Empire Gets Bent or Back. Yeah, exactly right. I love The Empire Strikes Back. Really do. My favorite as a kid was Return of the Jedi, but I've grown to appreciate Empire Strikes Back for the beauty and masterful film that it is. I saw the prequels.
I think, in general, they got bigger. They didn't necessarily get better than the first one.
Yeah.
So
that's a fair point. It's fair.
For me, yeah. I liked it before you knew that it was chapter 43 of a 78-page epic universe.
Yeah, exactly.
In the old school.
It was so good that Disney recreated it with The Force Awakens. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
But
every time I say it's like that old ad line for Beatlemania, not the real thing, but an incredible simulation. So, Action Jackson.
Oh, Action Jackson. It is something right here. It is a work of. I don't know if it's
by the way,
it's something.
That man is 52 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so he's like the modern Keanu Reeves, or he's
exactly.
Gotcha.
Man, if there's one thing I've learned about aging is you can't beat genes. I mean,
that's funny.
Every time I hear one of these lovely young things in the movies talking about their skincare regime and their organic this and their vitamin that, and I'm going, Yeah, honey, but you were born with it. Let's face it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fair point. There is something to be said about maintaining, but it's better to maintain than just start off with nothing to main. I don't know if that works. Action Jackson Juliet, Bollywood Action Jackson, a $93 million
Yeah.
budget. Was it really $93 million?
No, it was not. They
There's no
lie a
way.
lot. It might have been 93 million rupees or whatever, but anyway.
But
And
gross.
this guy made 3 movies that year.
Really?
Yeah. They make hundreds and hundreds of movies every year. So, and this one was not popular in India, apparently. So,
Really?
yeah. Oh,
just tells
Robin
you
and
that-
the Seven Hoods. Oh, now you're talking. Now you're talking. Folks, don't you be a do-badder. Be a do-gooder. Those clips are all on YouTube. And that bang, bang, bang that Sammy does, shooting out a whole bar full of bottles with his guns. And yeah.
That's a lot of stuff on the genre guys, from what I understand, right? On the list, right?
Oh, we've got, well, I'm not going to go through all that rigmarole with the sending of the pictures, but just looking at some of the movies. We've got a boy in it, just the ones I've set up thumbs for. I forget what order, so don't hold me to any of these. A Boy and His Dog, the Don Johnson post-apocalyptic movie. Our Man Flint, In Harm's Way, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. We mentioned Chinatown. Oh, I picked one of the Charlie Chan movies, Charlie Chan at the Opera, because the bad guy is Boris Karloff. There's a pairing for you. And and we're going to, because so many people have been asking us, and my first thought was, yeah, but everybody's seen it, everybody knows about it. But then we thought about it. So we're doing Casablanca. But my thumbnail one-liner is, watch it again, Sam. So
I like it.
Let's see. Oh, wonderful movie nobody knows, and if you don't, you really should find it and watch it, with Elliot Gould and Susanna York, and it's called Silent Partner. And you know that charming, wonderful guy who plays the father of the cute little kids in The Sound of Music? Well, if you want to see him as a scary, nasty villain, man, is he wonderful in that movie. Somebody mentioned Sinatra, Assault on a Queen. I wonder how many people have seen that, where Frank Sinatra and a crew are going to rob the Queen Mary in mid-ocean with a recovered Nazi submarine.
Wow, that is.
And Oscar Peterson does the music, really, really wonderful too. The Seahawk, Sinbad the Sailor with Douglas Fairbanks, which is just wonderful, and Walter Slezak as the bad guy. Somebody said classic musicals. What's more classic than Singing in the Rain? And we're going to do Spaceballs, and we're going to do Starman, and we're going to do Zorro, the original with, well, not original, there was silence, but the Tyrone Power Zorro, and many more, many more. That guy that is so celebrated in the Acolyte. Many. We've got a Matt Helm movie. We've got one of my favorite comedies, How to Murder Your Wife. Not because I want to, but because Jack Lemmon doesn't really, but Terry Thomas and Jack Lemmon and Verna Lisi, and score by Neil Hefti, who also wrote the Batman 66 theme song. So
I can't wait to see that
and
film.
Brannigan, which is John Wayne in London, kind of the ultimate fish out of water thing.
Gotcha.
With Dickie Attenborough as the Scotland Yard guy that he teams up with. Anyway, there's a few of them. There's a few. So we try to make a mix of the classics and the newbies and the things in between. So, but Robin and the Seven Hoods, good music, good music. You've never seen a Tyrone Power movie? Ooh, well, Well, my mother had a crush on Tyrone Power, and as a young girl, and if you saw a picture of my father at that age, you'd see kind of why she fell for him. Um, we did Around the World in 80 Days, Jeff. Uh, it's out there,
Yep.
and
It's out there and should be on this channel.
yeah.
Maybe, possibly.
Which one would I recommend of Powers movies? Not
yet.
I think I'd say Captains from Castile, which is the one about the conquistadors. And the music you will recognize if you are a USC fan, and that's Southern California, not South Carolina, because Fight On, the Trojan marching song, is from that score. So. Comedy. He did more action adventure than comedy. Yeah, okay.
Space?
Broken Pelvis.
Uh-oh.
See, when I think of movies I really want to put on my I love them list, somehow orthopedic surgery needs are not high on the list, but I don't know.
Yeah, Clone Wars. I wouldn't have gone probably with that, but I'll tell you. I mean, Revenge of the Sith. I like Phantom Menace. It actually has its strong points. And Attack of the Clones. Yeah, I mean, I like the mystery stuff with Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's pretty cool.
Send in the clones. There ought to be clones. But anyway,
yeah,
we have wandered far afield. Not that that's a bad thing on its own, but
I don't know. Hey, it's all
some
about
of these
Hollywood.
things that were done
movies.
in Palm Springs. I mean, you have classics like High Sierra. You have the genre movie The Saint in Palm Springs. You have The Monster That Challenged the World, and Iga, The Name Written in Blood. Palm Springs Weekend is, of course, famous. Koch, now there's a movie people forget about that was Palm Springs. Pee-wee mentioned. Let's see. Poodle Springs, which was classic. I think Raymond Chandler or Dashiell Hammett, I forget which. The Aviator, that's right. They did some of that there. And The Eyes of Tammy Faye. Gay Getaways, episodes 1 through 4. I'm just, looking at this list.
I mean,
let's see. Salt and Sea.
Power to Jesse James in 1939. Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, wow. Jack Benny. Really, with he used to get big stars as guest stars on his show, and here's just in the 40s on his radio show, William Powell, Eddie Cantor, Frank Sinatra, and then I would be interested in hearing that one. I'm gonna have to look for these. Going After Rommel, 1942, November 29th. With the 21st Ferrying Command, whatever that was. What's that got to do with Palm Springs? They found a way.
I do wonder what that has to do with Palm Springs. But hey, you know what? Any excuse to shoot there, I suppose.
Well, but if it's a radio show, you don't really go there. You just do it. I don't know. You get some sound effects of sand blowing. Now here's George Burns and Gracie Allen did 3 shows in a row because it's season 1, episode 9, 12. Well, anyway, To Go or Not to Go, Trip to Palm Springs, Gracie Reports Car Stolen, and Going to Palm Springs, and finally, I Love Lucy did In Palm Springs.
Whoa!
I
did not. I didn't know that I Love Lucy had anything affiliated with Palm Springs, but There you go. I guess learn something new every day, I suppose. Yeah, right there. I Love Lucy, 1951 to
A golf
1957.
episode of Bilko, the Phil Silvers show, called The
Mm,
Colonel Breaks Par in 1957. Andy Williams Show, Beverly Hillbillies, Good Morning World, I Spy, Jack Benny Again in 1965, um, Carol Burnett, I Love Lucy, Mannix, Mayberry RFD. Oh, this is the one with the sequential episodes. Get these titles. Are you ready? Mayberry RFD, which the TV version, Palm
okay.
Springs, Here We Come, Palm Springs, Here We Are, Million Palm Springs Golf Pro, and Palm Springs Cowboy.
Got to get the Palm Springs in there
Yeah, well,
somehow.
I don't know that they got paid for it. I do know of other instances like that. I think it was Puerto Vallarta's tourist board that sent writers a little check if they got the location into the script. Um,
Ah, I see.
so
Like a tax write-off or
product
an
placement,
incentive.
really.
Gotcha.
Lou Grant did an episode there. L.A. Law. Uh, that's L.A. Law. Divorce with Extreme Prejudice in 1987. As
Mm-hmm.
God is My Co-Defendant in 1991. And Silence of the Lambskins. Oh, my. Um,
Jammer
uh,
Monroe says, I'm betting that they went there and used a local radio station for the show because of the big stars would be lowered
yeah, maybe, but
in
you never know.
Oh.
Beverly Hills 90210
Oh.
did BYOB in 91. A Fling in Palm Springs in 91. Addicted to Love in 94. P.S. I Love You, which was their marketing slogan, of course, part one. And P.S. I Love You, part two in 94. Straight Shooter, Nancy's Choice. Ah, of course. I don't know how many people out there know who Huell Hauser was. Huell Hauser was this great roving reporter kind of guy for KCET, the public television station in LA.
Sure.
And he would cover all kinds of oddball places and events. I was on his show one time because in my role as a food and wine and travel judge and writer and expert, I was one of the judges. The LA County Fair had, would you believe, a cooking with spam contest. And he chose to come out there and cover that. Yeah, yeah. And I don't know if anybody out there is a cooking person or if you're into spam. I say that with a smile. I'll tell you what the best thing was. And it was apparently spam at that point had come out in lots of different flavors. And one of them was a hickory smoked spam. And and Danny Thomas owned La Quinta, I think it was, also Karen. But anyway, the hickory smoked spam, and what this lady did with it, and I think she won one of the categories. I gave her an A. She sliced it in little thin, curly. It looked like Fritos, okay, and put it in her dehydrator until it got crispy, and then mixed that into a traditional trail mix of nuts and dried fruits and whatever to give a little meat, a little protein component to the trail mix. And you know what? It was really, really good. Really, really good. So there's something for you to try. If you
never knew you could do that.
That's what shocked me. I mean, the stuff you learn wandering through life. Anyway,
well,
not when I said Danny Thomas and La Quinta, I'm sorry. It wasn't La Quinta, it was the Ocotillo Lodge. And I remember one of those times we were out there as a kid, going there for Palm Springs, for Thanksgiving. It was so weird doing Thanksgiving dinner in the desert. It just wasn't very pilgrimy, but I remember it was one of the first places I ever went where for families, they brought you a whole turkey to the table.
Really?
Yeah, and the waiter carved it, or daddy carved it, and get to take home the rest of it for part of the deal. So,
Wow.
memories of
And I
times
think you
gone
were
by.
saying, yeah, the uh, definitely the advent of air conditioning made a lot of places habitable when they previously weren't. Palm Springs being definitely a
Well,
benefactor of that for sure.
yes, but people lived in hot climates before, and they did architecture with thick walls and high ceilings and what they used to call jalousies. Those window over the door window fan areas and those.
Hmm.
So that a lot of that unfortunately went away. Um, oh, I get the joke. Apparently, in the 2000s, there was a series, and I don't remember, but in 2007, 1 year
Hmm.
only, so called America's Most Smartest Model. Aha. And they did 2 episodes out there, one called Hit Me With Your Best Shot, and the next one called Never Trust a Rottweiler. I don't know, and I don't want to know, and I'm not going to look it up, and I leave it to you.
Jam and Row, I think that's kind of what I was alluding to. That Florida was a ghost state before air conditioning. I think,
Well, and a swamp state for that matter.
yeah,
I mean,
that's
at
very
least in
true.
the
Very
desert.
true.
One of the things when I was doing food stuff is
Please.
down there in Indio by the Salton Sea, one of the citrus companies was growing mangoes. And the reason was they had found some guy who had done mango farming in Israel in the Negev. And the trick was that all of the natural jungly pests that normally attack mangoes can't live in that weather.
Oh.
So if you did the soil mix right and the water right, well, they were doing it. I went down there, they showed it to me. When we get there, it looked like Stalag 17. I mean, there was like a triple barbed wire fence around it. And they said, yeah, because we're still in the experimental stage. Different rows have different capabilities, different mixtures of soil or frequency of watering or chemical fertilizer, whatever. And so we really need them there to be tested afterwards. And the problem before the fence was the damn tourists would just pull up along the side of the road, get out and take some mangoes to eat.
Right.
And so they put in all these tough fences and German shepherds at night to keep people from doing that. So
Yeah, they're if you go along I-10 from
yeah,
Arizona to through India on your way to LA or Southern California area, you can see a lot of agriculture and stuff. And
mm-hmm.
yeah, it's fenced off because I would assume people they might drive on the side of the road and get some
Well,
fresh fruit
we'll get some
while it's
oranges and
available.
some. And of course, there's fruit stands where you can buy all these things, like we said with the date
Sure.
places. But why buy it when you can steal it, right? Well, not anymore.
I
Not
suppose
anymore.
so. I suppose so. It is
Well,
beautiful out here.
it is a gorgeous place if you could afford to be there or live there for any
Yeah.
length of time.
Yeah.
But I've always been more of a mountain guy than a desert guy. And the other thing we had besides the desert place was a cabin, as we called it. It was just a house up in the San Bernardino Mountains in Running Springs, which is on the way to Lake Arrowhead and Big Bear. And that was fun too.
Beautiful. Yeah, I know. Walt Disney fond of that area as well, and do Mineral King that didn't work out either. But
Yeah.
hey, maybe Catino will be different. We will see. We'll be covering that on That Park Place. I know very extensively in the upcoming days. By the way, I return back home tomorrow. So we should be back on the kind of normal schedule with everything, including this show. Holiday Backlot with Lou and you will be returning to its Sunday 2 p.m. Eastern slot, starting next week. So stay tuned for that, of course. Also, too, that Park Place producing 2 videos every single day, and have a live stream on 12 or noon Eastern on Thursdays. T3PO has a live stream on 2 p.m. on Tuesdays, actually 2:30 p.m. on Tuesdays. Following the pro show, so definitely stay tuned for that. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't subscribed yet, and hit that like button if you haven't. And we have 30 people out there. Thank you so much for joining
And
us.
if you're with
Lou?
us live, I think we're going to redirect to culture, right? Because or at least we can tell people to go look for it. Because in 90 minutes, roughly, our good friend and great YouTuber, Culture Casino, is having his 25K subscriber celebration on his channel. You can look around for a thumbnail of him as Gandalf. That's a little weird, but
I can set the redirect to Culture Casino's live stream coming up right here. Let me see if I can go ahead and get that together. That way, you guys don't even have to hit the dial. You're going to be redirected right there. You don't have to do anything. But yeah, 25,000. That is a huge milestone, a huge achievement. So we definitely want to be supporting him in all of his ventures. As Culture, well, he's responsible for a lot of what we do, including on this show. He does the some of the graphics packages for us when it comes to actually the end intro for this show and more. So very cool. Let me see if I can do that right now. But Lou, what do you got coming up on the? I know we did some of it, but is the Chinatown is that gonna be the next one on Genre Guys?
It's the next one. We're recording it tomorrow night. I don't know when it goes up. And okay. After that, I forget what's next, frankly. But basically, we do them one a week. And we were, for a while there, doing 2 at a time. And then we had Marvin as our guest monster because Hangry Tables had to do a little traveling like you'd have. So we were banking a few for a while to cover that absence, mostly the month of August. You know, the one thing we didn't mention that I'm seeing on the screen is the tramway. The Palm Springs Tramway, which the one you see now is not the original one. They totally replaced the cars with cars that actually rotate on their own axis as they go up and down the hill. But that's a fun thing to do if you're there, because you go from, in the wintertime, snow-capped peaks to the floor of the desert in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Very famous episode of Mission Impossible, the original series, shot on that tramway too.
We were going to do the tramway one time, and I think the car slightly overheating while we were doing that. So
and that's of course on the LA side of town, on the way out of town. If you're heading to LA, but you have to try that sometime.
I will definitely do that. It looks beautiful, looks gorgeous. The views look insane. So
yes, they are. So
definitely see that for sure.
Well, I think we've we've justified the vast amount of money that the Palm Springs Tourist Board sent us for doing this. Joke.
Yeah, exactly. No, actually, I don't know if you saw this, Lou, but just like the radio show that you were looking up and the television shows, if we put Palm Springs in the title, we
that could be
incentives, and then how many times we actually mention it in the show again. So I think we're all good on that, like you said, right?
Yes.
Ooh, interesting.
Walter
definitely
Murch.
Take that.
Okay.
We will definitely look
at that. Speaking of the email, we should probably give that out again too. There it is.
T3P online at yahoo.com is where you can find us. And if you have any questions for Lou, definitely send them that way right there.
And the last couple times, folks, we've kind of themed these shows to certain things, but we're going to do the plain old ordinary Hollywood stuff too. Never ordinary, but generic or anything like that. But so any of those questions you have, remember my limits are that I will not reveal personal confidences or too many details of that kind, but anything else about how you think it works, how it really works, I'm here for you.
Of
and
course.
We appreciate the great reception you give us every week. So Thank you very much. Vash, you want to outro the excitement?
Will do. Will do. Thank you so much for joining us here on another episode of Hollywood Backlot with Lou and you. You've got the email address t3ponline@yahoo.com. If you please go ahead. If you're watching this on the rewind, or if you're watching this right now, you can throw your questions in the comment section down below as well. We like to take those and feature them on the next upcoming shows. Please, if you like this video, please like this video. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to 23PO or That Pod Place, and we will see you all next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.